just you and
All right, you're going to the cloud. What's one of the first steps? You're going to need to know what's required. What does my business need? You're going to figure out business requirements. And in this lesson, we're going to talk all about how do you develop business requirements? What are the types of business requirements you need to consider when moving to a cloud environment? And where does security fit into this whole picture of business requirements? Okay, there really are three flavors of requirements. At the initial stage of developing business requirements, you really need to consider functional and non-functional requirements. What are functional requirements? These are really the devices, processes, and employees that are going to be necessary to run your cloud application or development environment or infrastructure, whatever you're putting up in the cloud. You really got to use every method you can to figure out what is it going to take. The devices you might identify by working with a cloud architect to figure out what the diagram of the application is going to look like. That will help you determine what devices are needed. The processes, here you might be working with stakeholders to identify what is the business trying to achieve, how do the processes that make that happen currently work, what are the inputs in terms of data, what are the outputs, what products are produced by the applications that are going to be leveraged in this cloud environment. And third, what are the employees' roles and responsibilities in this business requirement, in this overall project? More importantly, do we have the employees we need? How are these employees' roles shifting from on-premise or a different type of cloud environment to what our current project is set out to complete? Do we need to hire new people? Do we need to hire consultants to train up our current employees? These are things to consider when it comes to functional requirements. But at a fundamental level, what's up there? What are the inputs and outputs? What processes are going to do? And what are the roles and responsibilities that employees are going to fulfill? Those are the functional requirements. The non-functional requirements. What is the expected behavior? What are the baseline levels of logging, monitoring, performance, utilization that we expect to see from this business case, from what we're trying to do in the cloud? Those are the elements in terms of not what is being done, but how it's being done. And how will we know when unusual events occur? And a lot of those are determined in the non-functional requirements. And this dovetails into security requirements. Now, oftentimes we've talked about how you really need to know the business case, what are the valuable assets to prioritize the controls and make sure they are effectively protected based on their value to the business. I will say, I think there's a little bit of a caveat when it comes to developing business requirements. If you're the one developing the requirements, please include security early. They can help you realize pieces that might be missing in terms of your devices or processes to ensure that the application runs not only efficiently, but securely. I think when it comes to business requirements, we really have to start thinking of security as an aspect of product quality that should be included as early as possible. Now, if you're in security, I would caution you to really wait until a lot of the impact of these requirements is figured out before jumping in. Sometimes security people, they need to think, they jump ahead to all the different threats and vulnerabilities that could go wrong when it comes to seeing business requirements. But you have to keep in mind, what is the business trying to achieve here? And what is the level of security that's really appropriate given the value and the business case of what's going on? All right, let's reflect for a moment. How are business requirements determined in your organization? Now, this may seem like an odd question, but if you're not in a business analyst role or project management role, you may not understand how the business requirements are determined. And that may, in some ways, encumber your ability to truly understand how to properly secure things or do compliance or understand how regulations are applied. So remember, start with the business case first and really do your best to understand what is the business trying to achieve and what are the requirements to do that. And then how do we understand business requirements in order to improve security? In order to properly secure an environment, you have to understand what is it really trying to do What are the inputs and outputs? Knowing that will help you better determine what controls are really necessary to complement the business case, the requirements, and secure the process end to end, and ensure that when things are done in the cloud, that your organization can start off on the right foot, gaining the value of the cloud in a secure manner. Okay, in summary, we talked about the need for business requirements. You got to understand what you're trying to fundamentally do, what's required to do it, and what are the inputs and outputs of the process, and how are we going to monitor and make sure that processes are functioning properly, and what security requirements are needed. Talked about the impact of business requirements on security. You have to know what you're securing and why you're securing it to really do it effectively and in a cost-effective manner. And also we talked about the 3 types of business requirements. We're going to go in more detail into security requirements in future lessons. But until then, I'll see you later.